Alright guys, Kevin here. So I talk a lot on this channel about the culture war. I call it the Second American Civil War. And that's because for me, having lived in Latin America, it looks very similar to what those countries went through back in the 60s, 70s, and early 80s, where there was this heating up period while Marxists tried to take power and destabilize the government. And that's what we're going through right now. We see it with the street level conflict, but we also see it everywhere else. We see the battle lines being drawn in corporate America, in our government, and I think our government will become destabilized as we see more radicals get elected, people like Ilhan Omar and Ocasio-Cortez. These people are not committed to working through our problems or having dialogue. They won't even debate their political opponents. But as we see this kind of thing arise, I want to report on it. I want to talk to you guys about what we can do to try to solve things and prepare for this stuff. So that's why when I see a story like the one we're about to talk about, I have to share it with you guys. And we're going to look at some videos and talk about the big picture here because it goes beyond this one individual, but it does start with him, and his name is Spencer Sturtevant. Now, Spencer is a right-wing activist, and he does God's work. He lives in the pit of liberal hell, Seattle, Washington, and with his group AIM, the American Identitarian Movement, they go out to different protests and rallies. And recently, they caught the attention of the mainstream media by protesting the drag queen story hour. So good stuff there. But unfortunately, Spencer also caught the attention of a very dangerous armed left-wing militia group that we've talked about on this channel before, the Puget Sound John Brown Gun Club. Now, the JBGC of the Puget Sound is a branch of the national organization, the John Brown Gun Club. And for those of you who don't know, this is an organization that is made up of far-left Antifa anarchists. It is a far-left militia who have called for the overthrow of the American government, and they go out on the weekends training with weapons to fight the government and people on the right. This group has shown many times that they have no problem doing violence against their political opponents, and they went as far as to dox Mr. Sturtevant, posting his information on their far-left anarchist message boards. Now, they decided that they were going to label him a dangerous individual, and after they did that, they planned an armed rally in front of his house. So before this could happen, Mr. Sturtevant went to their open meeting to confront them with a video camera. Well, I guess this riled the group up because a few days later, 3 of these individuals show up in front of his house, casing his house, talking on walkie-talkies and brandishing weapons. And thankfully, he got pictures of them, called the police. The police came in and they arrested 3 of them, charging them with felonies. Now, this information all comes from Big League Politics. They're the only people really reporting on this so far. But this is very dangerous, guys. And look, we're seeing this on the West Coast mostly. We've seen several cases lately where far-left militia groups have either tried to do violence, planned terrorist attacks, or done violence against people on the right. There was the story out of California where the Antifa group were trying to buy weapons from drug cartels to go fight people down at the U.S. border, including ICE and Border Patrol agents. This is getting serious. It's so easy for the average people in America to dismiss this. And look, I don't like fighting Antifa. To me, fighting Antifa, it's like catching crappie in the Bassmasters Classic. They're fun to catch, but they really don't score you any points, and they're not the big fish. But they will be used as shock troops, and that's what's happening here, guys. And the worst part is, the reason it's happening in California and the West Coast so much is because they're empowered there. There are politicians and police forces standing down, or in some cases even aiding and abetting them. And the mainstream media does it too. I want you guys to watch this video.
Once a month, members of this Rochester Gun Club meet in a field for target practice. Some had never touched a gun until this past year.
We have each other's backs. We're acknowledging our fear of a world in which conservatives are the only ones who are armed.
The trigger warning Queer and Trans Gun Club formed as a reaction to the recent rise of the extreme right. 2 pride flags were burned in this upstate New York City right after the election of President Donald Trump. Other events, including the white nationalist rally in Charlottesville this summer, further convinced some members of the LGBT community of the need to take up arms.
So there you can see it. They have the pictures of the tiki torches to make people afraid, and then they invoke 9/11. I mean, Charlottesville, the left's 9/11. And just like with 9/11, they're going to use it to justify their war. They're going to use it to justify any of the violence that they might do. And just like with 9/11, the media are there apologizing for them, cheering them on as these righteous underdogs who are fighting the good fight. Speaking of the good fight in the media, we have shows now promoting the same kind of thing. The show The Good Fight that just put out an advertisement where they called for people to rise up, resist, and arm themselves and fight against any of their political opponents on the right. And it's all so dangerous, guys, and it's going to get so much worse. And people think I'm being hyperbolic when I say this. But think about this. The other day, I said in a video that the left, they don't need their traditional tools of book burnings or violence or genocide to shut down their political opposition nowadays because they have a delete button. But what happens when the people they deleted online go out in real life? Because we're still going to want to spread our ideas, and we need to do more in real life. And I've called on us to do more activism and run for office. But what do you think is going to happen when those people who think that they can shut down their political opposition by deleting them, and who have been sheltered and protected in these left-wing bubbles, what do you think is going to happen when they're confronted in real life with those same people they deleted online? Well, they're going to try to find another way to delete them. If you don't believe me, go look at these other countries in Latin America. Cuba, Nicaragua, El Salvador. Back in the 70s, if you're a right-winger living in a rural part of El Salvador where the left have taken over, you're going to be disappeared. And the police, they're not going to look into your case because, you're not one of the comrades. Now, I know it's not that bad here yet, but we're seeing the signs of this starting to happen. Look at the areas where the left have complete control. They're out of control. You have people being bashed in the head with bike locks. And then the police, what do? Nothing. It's up to 4chan to catch the guys who did it. And then when they turn that information over to the police, we find out one of them, he's a university professor. Speaking of universities, Berkeley, the whole university campus, a war zone, people being assaulted, buildings burned, cars on fire, and what happens? Nothing. Worse than nothing. The faculty celebrated. The faculty cheer on these anarchists and apologize for them. And then when right-wingers in California and Oregon and Washington, when they try to fight back and defend themselves, they get the book thrown at them. Meanwhile, the left, well, who knows who did it? They were wearing masks, and we're not going to investigate them. And so what can we do about this? Well, we do what they do, as always. We need strategic relocation. Guys, they're not going to come after me. They're going to have to get through all of my neighbors, who are all right-wingers and all armed. And then when they get here, they're going to have to send 30, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, you get the idea, 30. Really more, because my wife's armed. Her sister's armed. So, yeah, strategic relocation. We need to move to areas where we can take complete control. And here's the thing. When we do this, when we start doing this, because we're not doing it right now, and it's a shame, because by the time we do feel like we need to do it, it's going to be too late. But when we do take over areas, that's when we can start really winning, because we can use those areas to make stands. The left want to pass gun control in a place like California, and we have a right-wing enclave, a far right-wing enclave, we can say, screw you. Our sheriff, who we control because we elected them, will say no. They're going to answer to the community first. And they're going to take a constitutional stand. If they want to put Common Core in the schools, we say hell no. And we sue the federal government or the state government. And once we start using our institutions and our communities to fight back, you'll start to see things slowly move in our direction. Keep in mind, we would want to have existing infrastructure, so a city nearby and a town with maybe 5,000 to 10,000 population, that would be ideal. A town like that where there's water nearby and food, the preppers would know what to do more than us, but a lot of these guys, they want to go out on their own when things get bad. Really, we should have a community that's prepared for things to go bad. If we're going to be balkanized, we might as well just commit and create our own little Balkan state, right? Anyway, if nothing else, we need to get this discussion started. That's my thing. I want to get these conversations started, and maybe we can meme this into existence. We've done it before. So guys, if you want to support the channel, you can do so at www.paypal.me/HailHydra1. But more importantly than supporting this channel, and I hope you do, guys, but more importantly, share this video. Let's start memeing things into existence. Anyway, guys, I appreciate you watching these videos, really. I'm out.